The context. The document was published to Twitter by current indie VTuber Radia Active VT on August 6, 2025, with the doc being a whopping 93 pages in length. The document's main purpose was to discuss and speak out against indie VTuber Adora Bunny and their actions over the past 2 months in a VTuber group known as Project Stim, along with the events that occurred after Radia's departure. The document would be created by 3 individuals, Radia, Digital Vagrant, and Laserpig, and would primarily dive into Radia's past interactions with Adora. The writers alleged that Adora had the opportunity to discuss the situation with them in private and to make possible amends with Radia. However, Adora would refuse to do so and chose to openly deny any of her actions. The accusations. The writers of the document would list 15 bullet points of alleged actions and behaviors from Adora, some of which include, and I quote the following, casually doxing Radia's name, background, and personal information to multiple uninvolved third parties in pursuit of her slander campaign, demanding Radia take a forced break from streaming for an intentionally vague amount of time under threat of being thrown out of Project Stim, engaged in a sustained campaign of slander across the content sphere to countless content creators, both mutual friends and an unknown number of uninvolved parties, attempting to paint Radia as manipulative, greedy, content-rotted, and a compulsive liar that had falsified her entire history for malicious ends, accused Radia of falsifying her medical history for personal gain, accused Radia of falsifying her education and career for personal gain, accused Radia of money hoarding, and active denial of these actions and attempting to play the victim when third parties began to investigate outside of her ability to control them or threaten them. The doc included an additional 13 bullet points regarding the effects and consequences Radia had allegedly gone through as a result of the previously mentioned actions. The main idea of these bullet points was to show that Radia went through significant psychological abuse and anguish through the loss of her social network and friends, which led to her mental and physical health rapidly declining and a nearly successful suicide attempt as a result. The writers would also mention how there are likely more victims of Adora's alleged abuse. Project Stim. Project Stim is an indie VTuber group that was formed on May 18, 2025 by Radia, Adora, and Pomato Master. While the group is relatively new and therefore does not have a major following on Twitter, the group did manage to secure a booth at a large convention, Anime North, and hosted a virtual meet and greet with the group members and some other indie VTubers. The relevancy of this comes in after their meet and greet event on May 23rd, when Adora would host an emergency meeting on the 27th and drag Radia and other members in. Allegedly, the call would be more of an interrogation of Radia's supposed lies and negativity, accusing her of things such as being a content thief and falsifying medical records for monetary gain, and were trying to force a hiatus on Radia. While the document doesn't have a recording or transcript of this call, the writers state that a third party would confirm the activities that occurred and how members of Project Stim, quote, privately recognized that the intervention had been a poor choice. A series of DMs between Radia and Adora would follow that contained more hostile demands, including a quote, full social cleanse and detox, and a detachment from streaming in general. Radia would be admitted to the hospital 4 days after her initial call with Adora, to which no members of the group would even check in on her, despite being made aware of the situation. Eventually, after pressure from Adora and a quote from Radia being taken very out of context, Radia would leave Project Stim on June 16th. A document would be forwarded to Radia's partner, Digital Vagrant, on May 29th, 2 days after the confrontation, where it would contain a list of accusations the group compiled against Radia, though the allegations wouldn't contain any hard evidence and would only have alleged personal accounts and claims. Vagrant would discuss his own experiences with Adora, where he would express suspicion and later on displeasure with Adora's hostile behavior, harsh actions towards Radia, and the lack of sympathy towards Radia's situation. Vagrant would cease all communications with members of Project Stim after Adora refused to apologize for her actions and dismissed Vagrant's points, stating that he was, quote, doing a misogyny. Around this time, a mutual friend of the three by the name of Laserpig would be partially involved, intending to act as a neutral third party. The Slander and Harassment Campaign. The main crux of this document would focus on Adora's alleged campaign of slandering and harassing Radia over the next month, stating how Adora would continuously reach out to everyone who she could contact and attempt to discredit Radia. Through various statements of individuals who were willing to come out with information about this campaign, it would turn out that not only were the individuals confirming that the slander was taking place, but in less than 48 hours after Adora and Radia stopped talking to each other, Adora would allegedly dox Radia's IRL name to an anonymous user so they could search up Radia's LinkedIn page. Radia would attend Offkai from June 20th to the 22nd in hopes to reconnect with other friends due to the stressful nature of the situation, but would face more harassment from Adora's campaign and would be isolated as a result. Radia would be later contacted by Finari Mori, a Project Stim member who was involved in the initial confrontation, who would deeply apologize for her involvement and confirm that Adora's slander campaign was in fact happening. Adora would DM Radia on June 26th some form of apology around the same time, which in my opinion was a really bad attempt at an obligatory apology, and would lead to Radia confirming that Adora didn't intend to correct any damage that she did. Adora would announce a hiatus in June due to alleged poor mental health and needing to be a quote, better person to those around me. Radia would make a statement on July 1st to explain her separation from Adora, only to be met with both private and public criticism from Adora the next day. It would also turn out that Alicia X Life, a friend of Adora, would post a statement condemning Radia's supposed immature behavior on her Discord server. Unfortunately, on July 12th, Radia would attempt to take her own life. It would take efforts from her roommate, partner, and the crisis hotline to prevent Radia's attempt from succeeding. The current state of affairs. The document states that Radia remains in a very negative mental state after everything that has happened, and lists 8 bullet points of lingering and recent effects Radia has been going through, which include, but are not limited to, a severely damaged support network that Radia struggles to reach out to, ongoing physical symptoms of extreme stress that may be permanent, a dangerously high level of expenses that accumulated due to slashed revenue, and returning bouts of suicidal ideation. Radia herself was able to discuss past negative treatment she faced from Adora, as well as able to discuss her current medical issues, more specifically how her gastrointestinal system cannot function without both medications and an enema known as smog, a fluid composed of 4 specific ingredients that act as, more or less, a strong and risky solution to bowel obstruction. She would also list some of her current health issues and showcase the large medical bills she has to pay on a regular basis. On July 30th, a phone call would be attempted between Adora and Radia, with Laserpig acting as a neutral third-party moderator. The hope was for the two of them to have some form of settlement between them, where the two would publicly come to an agreement and end the controversy there. However, after over 25 minutes of trying to get Adora to discuss how they want to move forward, they would be met with disinterest and denial until Radia and Laserpig gave up and left the call, sensing that there wouldn't be a constructive conversation. The aftermath. As of this video, various other individuals would speak out against Adora by highlighting their own experiences with her, ranging from just negative experiences with her in general to actually getting hurt by her. Alicia would make a post the same day calling Radia out by focusing on her part of the document, where she claimed that Radia was confirmed to be lying about Adora's hiatus reason, and that Radia's overall behavior regarding a chatter's behavior was quote, gross ass behavior. This would be met with mixed opinions, with those in favor of Alicia agreeing with her claims, and those against Alicia stating that her post only paints her as someone who never read the document and is someone who is defending Adora's behavior. Pomato Master would post a brief statement on August 7th, stating that while they're not intending to defend Adora, Radia mischaracterized the events that transpired between her and Project Stim, and will provide more information and proof after her vacation. A user would point out a questionable repost done by Pomato, to which Pomato later undid. As of this video, Adora did put out a small statement on August 6th regarding her upcoming response to Radia's document, stating that it was a mutual hurting, and how she'll post a defense with receipts in roughly a week. While we can't theory craft what will happen during the next few days, it's important to realize that we shouldn't condemn any individuals mentioned in this video and outside of it, as we need to hear from both sides.